Are you running enough? In this video, I want to share some common mileage levels that are typical among certain types of runners and talk about why mileage is arguably the best way to get faster as a runner. So I just had my college cross-country coach, Jim Butler, on the Strength Running podcast, and he used to say something really funny to us when we were training, when we talked about our problems as runners. He always used to just say, mileage. And that's because mileage is often a very good fix for whatever is ailing you as a runner. Of course, not an injury, but any kind of training or fitness problem that you might have. And so with that in mind, let's talk about why mileage is so important. But first, let's talk about some of the mileage levels that you can expect to run if you are a certain type of runner. All right, let's start with the high school athlete. If you are a high school cross country or track runner, or maybe you have a kid who's going to run cross country or track, how many miles a week are they going to run? Well, most high school runners are probably going to run somewhere between 20 and 40 miles a week. That's what I would call average. Now, you are going to have some really high level programs with some really competitive high school athletes who might be running 50, 60, or 70 miles a week. And if you come across a high school runner doing more than 70 miles a week, they are an outlier. They're probably one of the best in the country, or at least the best in their region, and they're really pushing the envelope so that they can get to that next level of performance. But typically, a high school runner is going to be doing somewhere between 20 at the very low end, maybe a freshman, junior varsity runner, all the way up to maybe about 70. Are there exceptions? Of course, but those levels are going to be pretty average. 20 to 50, 30 to 50 is probably the tighter range in there for the high school athlete. But what if you're a college athlete? What if you're competing for a collegiate team? Well, if you're running at the college level, you're probably doing more than 50 miles per week. You're probably doing more than 60 or 70 miles per week. I'd say the average collegiate runner is probably running between 60 and 80 miles per week. And you probably have some of the better runners on the team, the runners who have more injury resilience, more drive, and maybe who have a little bit better physiology to handle that higher mileage levels. Those runners might be doing 90 or 100 miles a week. And of course, you might see those top D1 guys, some of the best runners in the country, running over 100 miles a week, maybe up to 110 or 120 miles per week. It's interesting to note, college runners are essentially amateur professionals. Most college athletes, at least in good programs, approach their training like a professional, even though they're not running professional times. So when I work with runners, that's actually what I try to do. I try to get runners to approach their training more professionally. It doesn't matter if you're running 13 minutes for the 5K, 23 minutes, or 33 minutes. By approaching our training a bit more professionally, we definitely will become better runners. You know, there was an interesting study done a few years ago by Strava, and they looked at the training for all of their Boston Marathon qualifying marathoners using the platform, and then those marathoners who didn't qualify for Boston. And they found those who qualified for Boston ran more miles. It's pretty simple. If you want to become a better runner, especially in the longer distances, the mileage that you're running is super important.
You know, I'm not that big into supplements, but I do love AG1 by Athletic Greens. I consider it my nutrition insurance, helping me cover all my bases so I know I'm not missing out on anything my body needs, especially when I'm training really hard. I try to eat really well, but of course, AG1 is that extra security that gives me peace of mind over my diet. 1 scoop per day, and I'm getting 75 vitamins and minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, antioxidants, and adaptogens. You can try it out too at athleticgreens.com/Jason, and they're going to throw in a free year's worth supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Check it out at athleticgreens.com/Jason.
All right, so with all that said, we can probably comfortably say that beginner mileage levels are probably 40 miles a week and less. Intermediate mileage levels are 30 to 50 miles per week. And then more advanced mileage levels are over 50 miles per week, with elite level ranges starting, I would say, around 80 to 90 miles per week. Once you're running 80 to 90 miles per week, you are running more mileage than most runners out there. Now, I will say, if you're someone who cares about mileage and you want to build your mileage, we can think a little bit more strategically about our volume by thinking about our mileage in terms of our monthly mileage rather than our weekly mileage. So look at some of your past training logs, hopefully you're using a training log, and find out what your best month of mileage was. That's the standard. You don't always have to beat that, of course. You're gonna have some months where you're racing a lot, you might have to lower your volume, but that is where a lot of your fitness was built. And if you wanna keep progressing and getting better, focusing on your monthly mileage is a great way to do it. It makes you think a little bit more long-term, and it's a great way to help yourself prevent injuries because you're not rushing to get in a certain amount of mileage in just 7 days. So how do you stack up? How does your weekly mileage level compare to a lot of typical high school and collegiate runners? If you want to take your running to the next level, running more mileage is arguably one of the best ways to do that. Mileage provides the foundation upon which your speed workouts rest upon. If you don't have that foundation, if you don't have that base of endurance built, then it's going to be really hard to run really fast. Because after all those speed workouts are what's called utilization workouts. They utilize your current fitness and allow you to express it more effectively. However, if you don't have a high level of fitness to begin with, there's really not that much to utilize. So we want to focus on aerobic workouts, the long run, and our overall mileage, because those things are capacity building training sessions. Things like your long run build your capacity for more training and more better performances. So as a coach, I love focusing on capacity because ultimately in the long term, it makes you a much better runner. So if you're someone who's maybe running 20 to 30 miles a week, maybe 35, 40 miles a week, let's make running a little bit more your top priority. You will become a better runner for it.